I'm Rebecca, and I'm 32. My brother's new wife handed me a name tag at the wedding reception that read, "The Charity Case." My entire family erupted in laughter, like it was the punchline to some inside joke I wasn't part of. I stared at that little white sticker for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds of pure, crystallized humiliation, the kind that burns through your chest and makes your ears ring. Around me, cousins were doubled over. Mom was actually wiping tears from her eyes. Dad was slapping his knee like this was comedy gold. I smiled, set the name tag down on the gift table, and walked straight out of the country club without saying a word. But here's the thing about being the family disappointment, sometimes you get the last laugh. I pulled out my phone in the parking lot and made one call. One very important call to my lawyer. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt completely humiliated by your own family. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. By morning, my dear brother Mike and his lovely bride Jennifer were about to discover what real charity looks like, because apparently, they'd forgotten one tiny detail about their perfect love story. They were living rent-free in my downtown apartment. Had been for 8 months while they saved for their dream wedding. I guess you could say I was about to remind them. See, while they were all having a grand time at my expense, calling me the family charity case because I'm successful, single, and apparently that makes me pathetic in their eyes, they forgot something crucial. I'm the one who owns property in this city. I'm the one with the MBA and the corner office. And I'm definitely the one holding all the cards. The morning after their wedding, they were going to wake up to a very special delivery. 2 documents, actually, a lease agreement and an eviction notice. Their choice which one to sign. After all, real charity should go to people who actually need it, right? Let me back up and paint you the full picture of my wonderfully supportive family. Growing up as the youngest of 3 kids in suburban Ohio, I learned early that success meant different things depending on your gender. My brothers Mike and Danny could do no wrong. Mike became a mechanic. Danny works construction. Both married their high school sweethearts, bought houses with white picket fences, and started popping out kids. Me? I got a full scholarship to Northwestern, graduated summa cum laude, and built a career in commercial real estate. But somehow, I'm still the disappointment because I haven't managed to land a husband. Every family gathering was the same routine. Mom would corner me within 5 minutes. "Rebecca, honey, you're not getting any younger. Maybe you should lower your standards a little." "Thanks, Mom." Really feeling the love. Dad was more subtle, but just as brutal. "Career's great, sweetheart, but when are you going to focus on what really matters?" What really matters? As if building a portfolio worth 7 figures was just some cute hobby I picked up. The worst part? I actually tried to help them understand my world. Last Christmas, I explained how I'd just closed a $20 million office complex deal. Know what Mom said? "That's nice, dear. Mrs. Henderson's daughter just had twins." Because apparently, creating life is impressive, but creating wealth is just showing off. My success made them uncomfortable. When I bought my BMW, they suddenly couldn't afford family dinners at anything nicer than Applebee's. When I renovated my condo, they stopped visiting because it made them feel inadequate. When I took Mom to that spa weekend for her birthday, she complained the whole time that it was too fancy. But here's the beautiful irony: they had no problem accepting my help when they needed it. Danny's transmission blew? Guess who loaned him $3,000? Mom needed her roof repaired? I covered it. Mike wanted to propose to Jennifer but was broke? I bought the ring. And when Mike asked to stay in my downtown apartment to save money for the wedding, I said yes. Because that's what family does, right? I should have seen the writing on the wall when Jennifer moved in too without asking, or when they redecorated my place without permission, or when they started hosting parties and telling people it was their apartment. But no, I kept being the good sister, the reliable one, the charity case. The morning of Mike's wedding should have been a red flag parade, but I was too busy playing the supportive sister role to notice. Jennifer had demanded, really, that I handled the little details since I was so good at organizing things. You know, because that's what single women are for. Free labor. I spent 3 hours that morning picking up flowers because their delivery guy got confused about the address. Jennifer's fault, actually, since she'd given him my apartment as the drop-off point without telling me. But somehow this became my emergency to solve. Then there was the cake crisis. The bakery called at 7 a.m. because Jennifer had changed the flavor 3 times and never confirmed the final order. Guess who got to drive across town to sort that out? If you guessed the family charity case, you'd be correct. By the time I got to the venue, the wedding party was in full meltdown mode. Jennifer's maid of honor had food poisoning, the photographer was stuck in traffic, and the officiant was running late because he'd mixed up the time. But don't worry, Rebecca to the rescue again. I coordinated with the photographer's assistant, rearranged the schedule, and even helped Jennifer get into her dress because her backup maid of honor had never worked a corset before. Did anyone thank me? Of course not. I was just doing what the spinster aunt does, making herself useful so people tolerate her presence. The ceremony itself was beautiful, I'll give them that. Mike looked genuinely happy, and Jennifer was radiant. For about 30 minutes, I felt that warm glow you get when family moments work out perfectly. My baby brother was starting his happily ever after. Then came the reception. Have you ever experienced that moment when you realize how your family really sees you? Drop a comment below if you've ever felt like the family disappointment despite being the most successful one in the room. The name tags should have been my first clue. Everyone else had proper ones. Mother of the bride, best man, family, normal wedding reception labels. But when Jennifer handed me mine with that sweet smile that never reached her eyes, I knew something was off. The charity case. In elegant script, no less. The laughter started immediately. My cousin Sarah actually snorted. Uncle Bob was slapping his knee. Even the kids were giggling, though they probably didn't understand the joke. Mike stood there grinning like this was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. This from the man who'd been sleeping rent-free in my guest bedroom for 8 months. That's when everything clicked into place. This wasn't spontaneous humor. This was orchestrated humiliation. The drive home from the wedding was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Not because of traffic, because of clarity. You know that feeling when puzzle pieces suddenly snap together and you see the whole picture? That's what hit me in waves. Jennifer hadn't made a mistake with that name tag. This was planned, calculated. They'd sat around my dining room table, the one I'd bought in the apartment I owned, and laughed about how to publicly humiliate the family charity case. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. There I was, being mocked for being the family charity case by people living off my actual charity. I pulled into my building's parking garage and sat there for a minute, engine running. Through the concrete walls above me, I could hear music and laughter. Mike and Jennifer were throwing an after-party. In my apartment. With my electricity. Probably serving my leftover wine to wedding guests who'd just watched me get humiliated. That's when I made the call. David, it's Rebecca. I need those documents we discussed. First thing Monday morning. My lawyer had been suggesting this for months. You're too generous with your family, he'd warned. Get everything in writing. But I'd resisted because you don't put legal contracts between family members, right? Wrong. Apparently, family members have no problem putting humiliation between you and basic human dignity. David was all business, even on a Saturday night. Standard lease agreement or month to month? Month to month. And David? Include an immediate termination clause. 30 days notice. Any particular reason for the urgency? I stared up at my apartment windows, watching shadows move behind the curtains. My apartment. My investment. My charity that had been taken for granted for 8 months while they planned my public humiliation. Let's just say the charity is being redirected to more deserving recipients. Sunday passed in beautiful, peaceful silence. I stayed at my office, catching up on paperwork and enjoying the quiet. No family calls, no demands for help, no Jennifer rearranging my furniture or Mike leaving dishes in my sink. For the first time in months, my space was mine. Monday morning, I woke up early and dressed in my best suit, the navy Armani that made me feel invincible. If I was going to change the family dynamic forever, I might as well look good doing it. Monday morning arrived with all the subtlety of a freight train. I'd been awake since 5, not from nerves, but from anticipation. There's something deeply satisfying about having a plan when you've been reacting to other people's games for so long. David's messenger service was punctual. The documents arrived at Mike and Jennifer's temporary residence, aka my apartment, at exactly 9 a.m. Standard business hours. Professional and courteous. My phone started ringing at 9:03. Rebecca, what the hell is this? Mike's voice was panic-adjacent, which was new. Usually he only called me when he needed something, and the tone was always casual, confident that Big Sister would fix whatever mess he'd created. Good morning to you too, Mike. I trust you and Jennifer had a lovely honeymoon night in my guest bedroom? Cut the sarcasm. There's a guy here with legal documents. Something about lease agreements and eviction notices? I leaned back in my desk chair, spinning slightly to face the floor-to-ceiling windows of my downtown office. 30 floors below, people hurried along sidewalks, probably dealing with their own Monday morning crises. But up here, I was in complete control of mine. Oh, that. Yes, David drew those up for me. There are 2 options, Mike. You can sign the lease agreement and start paying market rate rent that's $2,800 a month, utilities not included. Or you can sign the eviction notice and be out by the end of the month. Silence. Then, are you insane? We just got married yesterday. Congratulations. Marriage is a wonderful institution. So are legal contracts. Rebecca, you can't be serious. We're family. And there it was. The magic word that was supposed to fix everything. Family. The same word that had been conspicuously absent when they were designing humiliating name tags for me. You're absolutely right, Mike. We are family. Which makes your wife's little joke at the reception even more special, don't you think? More silence. Then Jennifer's voice in the background, sharp and panicked. What's she saying? What does she want? Actually, I continued, my voice staying level and professional, I've been thinking about that name tag all weekend. The charity case. Very clever, creative. It really captured something important. Look, Becca, Jennifer didn't mean anything by it. She was just trying to be funny. Oh, she was hilarious. The whole family thought so. Mom was crying from laughing so hard. Dad nearly fell off his chair. Uncle Bob is probably still chuckling about it. I could hear frantic whispering in the background. The thing is, Mike, it made me realize something important about charity. Real charity should be documented, transparent, official. Don't you agree? What do you mean? I mean that if I'm going to be the family charity case, we should make it official. Contracts, rental agreements, proper documentation. That way everyone knows exactly where they stand. The silence on the other end of the phone stretched so long I wondered if the call had dropped. Then I heard Jennifer's voice, shrill and indignant. She can't do this. We just got married. This is our home. Their home. I had to admire the audacity. Mike, are you still there? I asked pleasantly. Yeah, I'm here. Look, Becca, can we just talk about this? Come over and we'll work something out. Actually, I think the messenger has explained everything quite clearly. 2 documents, your choice. Though I should mention that David included a clause about property damage and unauthorized modifications. You'll want to review that carefully. Property damage. Jennifer had painted my guest bathroom sage green without asking. She'd also rearranged my furniture, hung pictures, and essentially redecorated my place to her taste, all of which would need to be restored to original condition. This is ridiculous! Jennifer snatched the phone. Rebecca, I don't know what your problem is, but this is completely unreasonable. We're family now, and family doesn't treat each other this way. Family. There was that word again. You're right, Jennifer. Family doesn't treat each other this way. Family doesn't publicly humiliate each other at weddings. Family doesn't turn generosity into a punchline. But apparently, I missed that memo. That was just a joke. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was laughing at me. There's a difference. And now I'm laughing at the irony. What irony? I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. The irony that the family charity case is the one with the real estate portfolio. The irony that the woman too pathetic to catch a husband is the one providing housing for the happy couple. The irony that your joke just cost you your free ride. Mike got back on the phone. Okay, fine. We get it. You're mad. But can't we work something out? I'm between jobs right now, and with the wedding expenses, between jobs. Mike had quit his position at the garage 3 months ago because he didn't like his new supervisor. He'd been in no hurry to find replacement employment because he was living rent-free and Jennifer was working part-time at a boutique. That's exactly why David included both options, Mike. If you can afford market rate rent, sign the lease. If not, the eviction notice gives you 30 days to find alternative arrangements. 30 days? Do you know how hard it is to find an apartment in 30 days? Actually, yes, I do. I'm in real estate, remember? The career you all think is so meaningless compared to what really matters. What do you think will happen next? Will Mike and Jennifer swallow their pride and pay rent? Or will they try to manipulate the family into turning against me? Drop your predictions in the comments below. The call ended with more sputtering protests and threats to call our parents. I wasn't worried. Mom and Dad could lecture me all they wanted about family loyalty and forgiveness. But they couldn't change the fact that I owned the property and had every legal right to charge rent or evict non-paying tenants. I spent the rest of Monday in meetings, but my phone buzzed constantly with texts from various family members. The news was spreading fast. By noon, everyone knew that mean old Rebecca was throwing the newlyweds out on the street. By 5 p.m., I had 12 missed calls and 43 unread messages. I deleted them all and went home to my quiet, child-free, drama-free office building apartment. Some people might call me heartless, but I prefer to think of myself as finally learning to value my own worth. Tuesday brought the family intervention I'd been expecting. Mom called at 7 a.m., which meant she'd been awake worrying since 5. Nothing gets Mom up early like a good family crisis she can't control. Rebecca Ann Mitchell, what is wrong with you? No hello, no pleasantries. Straight to the guilt trip. Your brother is devastated. Jennifer is in tears. How could you do this to them right after their wedding? I sipped my coffee and watched the sunrise paint my living room golden. God, it was peaceful without roommates. Good morning, Mom. I'm doing well, thanks for asking. Don't you dare get smart with me, young lady. Mike told me everything. You're trying to charge them rent? On their honeymoon week? That's just cruel. Their honeymoon week was 3 days in my apartment. And yes, I'm charging rent because that's what property owners do. They're family. You don't charge family rent. I almost laughed. Funny, I don't remember family putting charity case name tags on each other either. But here we are. That was just a silly joke, Rebecca. You're overreacting. Overreacting. The classic dismissal. Anytime I set boundaries or stood up for myself, I was overreacting. When Mike borrowed money and never paid it back, I should be understanding. When Danny used my credit card without asking, I should be supportive. But when I finally said enough, suddenly, I was the problem. Mom, let me ask you something. If someone publicly humiliated you at a family event, would you continue providing them with free housing? It's different when it's family. You're right, it is different. Family should treat each other better than strangers. But apparently, I missed that lesson. The conversation continued for 20 minutes. Mom deployed every weapon in her arsenal. Guilt, tears, threats to exclude me from family events, and finally, the nuclear option. Your father is so disappointed in you, Rebecca. We raised you to be better than this. Better than what? Better than having self-respect? Better than valuing my own worth? Better than expecting basic human decency from people who claim to love me? Tell Dad I'll survive his disappointment. I've been surviving family disappointment for 32 years. By lunch, I'd gotten similar calls from Danny, Aunt Linda, and even Jennifer's mother. The family network was in full mobilization mode. Poor Mike and Jennifer, thrown out by evil Rebecca. How could I be so heartless? What do you think will happen next? Will the family pressure work? Or will Rebecca stand her ground? Drop your predictions in the comments below. The funny thing about family pressure campaigns is they only work if you care more about family approval than your own dignity. And after Saturday night, I'd discovered something liberating. I was completely done caring what they thought. That evening, Mike showed up at my office building. The security desk called to ask if I wanted to see him. Send him up, I said. Time for round 2. Mike looked rough when he walked into my office. 2 days of marriage had not been kind to him. His hair was messed up, his shirt wrinkled, and he had that deer in headlights expression he used to get when Mom caught him sneaking out in high school. Nice office, he said, looking around at my corner space with its city view and mahogany furniture. Real impressive. Thank you. It's what success looks like when you're not busy being a charity case. He winced. About that name tag thing. What about it? Jennifer feels really bad about it. She wants to apologize. How thoughtful. Where is she? Downstairs in the car. She was too embarrassed to come up. Too embarrassed. The woman who'd orchestrated my public humiliation was too embarrassed to face me privately. Rich. So, what can I do for you, Mike? He sat down heavily in one of my client chairs. Come on, Becca. You know why I'm here. We need more time to figure this out. Figure what out? The documents are pretty straightforward. Pay rent or move out. But $2,800 a month? That's more than I made at the garage. Which is why David included the eviction option. Very considerate of him, actually. Mike ran his hands through his hair. Look, I get that you're mad about the name tag thing, but Jennifer was just trying to fit in with the family. She's nervous around everyone, and she thought making a joke would help. A joke. That's what we were calling calculated humiliation now. Mike, let me tell you what I think really happened. I think you and Jennifer sat in my apartment, and complained about poor, sad Rebecca who can't get a man. I think Jennifer suggested that stupid name tag because she wanted to put me in my place. And I think you went along with it because you've never respected what I do or who I am. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my work? When's the last time you congratulated me on a deal? When's the last time you treated my career as anything other than a cute hobby I'll abandon when I finally catch a husband? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're successful, Becca. We all know that. Knowing and respecting are different things. You know I have money, but you don't respect how I earned it or what it represents. So what? You want me to bow down and worship your bank account? I want you to treat me like an adult, like an equal, like someone whose generosity shouldn't be taken for granted. Mike shifted uncomfortably. We're grateful for everything you've done. Are you? Because Saturday night, it felt like you were all having a good laugh at the charity case's expense. It was just one stupid joke. And there it was. The minimization, the dismissal, the complete inability to understand why their one stupid joke had been the last straw. Mike, do you know what the difference is between a joke and bullying? What? A joke is funny to everyone. Bullying is only funny to the people doing it. He didn't have an answer for that. Mike left my office 20 minutes later, empty-handed and defeated. I watched from my window as he walked to his car where Jennifer waited. Even from 30 floors up, I could see the tension in his body language as he delivered the bad news. No extension. No family discount. No special consideration for being newlyweds. Wednesday brought a new strategy: emotional manipulation via mom. She showed up at my apartment building at lunch, armed with homemade cookies and crocodile tears. "Rebecca, honey, we need to talk." I let her in, mostly because I was curious what angle she'd take this time. Mom settled on my white sofa, the one Jennifer had tried to cover with her collection of throw pillows, and opened her purse. I brought pictures from the wedding. Of course she did. Because nothing says, forget about being humiliated, like reliving the moment in glossy color prints. She spread them across my coffee table like a peace offering. Mike and Jennifer cutting the cake, the family group shot, dancing photos, all the moments that came after I left. "You missed so much." "Sweetie." Uncle Bob gave the funniest speech. Danny's kids were adorable on the dance floor. It was such a beautiful night. Beautiful for everyone except me, apparently. "Mom, why are you really here?" Her lower lip trembled. "Your brother is talking about moving back home. With me and your father. Can you imagine? Newlyweds living in our little two-bedroom house?" Ah, there it was. Mom didn't want Mike and Jennifer cramping her retirement style any more than I wanted them freeloading in my apartment. "That would be challenging," I agreed. "Rebecca, you have all this space, all this success. Couldn't you find it in your heart to help family one more time? One more time." As if the 8 months of free housing, the loan for the engagement ring, the wedding coordination, and countless other favors hadn't happened. As if Saturday night had erased all previous generosity and reset the family ledger to zero. "Mom, let me ask you something. If a friend treated you the way Mike and Jennifer treated me, would you keep helping them? But they're not friends, they're family. So family gets to treat you worse than strangers?" She dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "Family means forgiveness, Rebecca. It means grace and love and putting others first. And what about respect? What about basic human decency? Do those count for anything in your version of family?" "Of course, but because from where I sit, respect seems to be a one-way street in this family. I'm supposed to respect everyone else's choices, everyone else's needs, everyone else's feelings. But when it comes to respecting mine, well, I'm just overreacting." Mom was quiet for a moment, picking at her tissue. Then, "What do you want from them, Rebecca? An apology? I want them to understand that actions have consequences. I want them to realize that my generosity isn't unlimited, and I want them to treat me like a human being instead of a walking ATM. So you'll make them homeless to prove a point? I'll make them responsible for their own lives." "There's a difference." She gathered up the wedding photos, her hands shaking slightly. "This isn't the daughter I raised. Maybe not. But it's the woman I needed to become." Thursday brought the nuclear option. Dad. He didn't call first, just showed up at my office building at closing time, looking stern and disappointed. Classic dad move corner me when I was tired and off guard. "We need to talk," he said when security called up. I considered saying no, considered having security escort him out. But curiosity won. Dad rarely involved himself in family drama. If he was here, things were escalating. He looked uncomfortable in my office, like the success surrounding him was somehow offensive. Dad had worked construction his whole life, honest work with his hands. My glass and steel world probably seemed foreign and cold to him. "Hell of a view," he said, standing at the window. "I like it. Bet it costs more than my house." "Probably." He turned to face me, his expression serious. "Your mother's worried sick about you." "I'm fine, Dad. Better than fine, actually." "Are you? Because this thing you're doing to Mike, it doesn't seem like you." "Which part? Charging rent for my property or expecting to be treated with basic respect?" "The vindictive part." Vindictive. There was a word I'd been expecting. Any woman who stood up for herself was vindictive. Any woman who set boundaries was a bitch. Any woman who refused to be a doormat was clearly the problem. "Dad, let me tell you what vindictive would look like. Vindictive would be evicting them immediately. Vindictive would be charging them back rent for the 8 months they lived there free. Vindictive would be taking them to court for the unauthorized modifications to my property." His eyebrows shot up. "Unauthorized modifications?" Jennifer painted my guest bathroom, hung pictures, rearranged furniture, changed locks. Basically treated my place like her personal home improvement project. Dad was quiet for a moment. In his world, you didn't mess with another man's property without permission. That was sacred. "I didn't know about that," he admitted. "There's a lot you don't know, Dad. Like how I've loaned Danny money 6 times in 5 years. Like how I paid for Mike's engagement ring. Like how I've been the family bank for years while being treated like the family disappointment. Nobody thinks you're a disappointment." "Really?" "Because Saturday night felt different." He sat down heavily in my client chair. "That name tag thing was stupid. Cruel, even. But Rebecca, You can't let one moment of poor judgment destroy your relationship with your brother. It wasn't one moment, Dad. It was the culmination of years of being taken for granted. The name tag was just the final straw. So what's your end game here? You want to punish them forever? I want them to grow up. I want Mike to get a job and support his wife instead of living off his sister's charity. I want Jennifer to understand that marriage doesn't entitle her to other people's property. And I want my family to realize that success doesn't make someone a target for ridicule. Dad studied me for a long moment. You've changed, Rebecca. Yes, I have. I used to think family love was unconditional. Now I know better. Love is unconditional, but relationships require mutual respect. I stared at him. Did you just agree with me? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Don't let it go to your head. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Dad asked the question I'd been dreading. What if they can't afford the rent? Then they'll figure something else out, just like every other adult in America. He nodded slowly. Your mother won't like this. Mom's had 32 years to see me as more than the daughter who can't catch a husband. I'm done waiting for her approval. As Dad left, he paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built here. It was the first time he'd ever said that. Friday brought the revelation that changed everything. I was packing up to leave the office when my phone buzzed with a text from my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She lived across the hall from my apartment and had a clear view of the comings and goings. Rebecca, dear, I thought you should know there are moving trucks at your building. Multiple trips. They're taking quite a lot of furniture. My blood went cold. I called her immediately. Mrs. Chen, what kind of furniture? Well, let me see. They took that lovely leather sectional from your living room, and the dining set. Oh, and several boxes of what looked like artwork and decorative items. They were stealing from me. Mike and Jennifer weren't just refusing to pay rent, they were looting my apartment on their way out. I broke every speed limit getting to my building. The moving truck was still there, being loaded with my 60-inch television. Stop! I called out to the movers. That's my property. The moving supervisor, a burly guy with a clipboard, looked confused. Lady, we got a signed authorization right here. Mike and Jennifer Mitchell hired us to move their stuff. Their stuff? That's my TV. Mike appeared in the building doorway, looking guilty as hell. Becca, I can explain. Explain what? Explain why you're stealing my furniture? We're not stealing. We bought some of this stuff. With what money? You've been unemployed for 3 months. Jennifer emerged behind him, her arms full of my throw pillows. These were gifts. I picked them out. With my credit card. In my apartment. The movers had stopped loading, sensing trouble. The supervisor approached me. Ma'am, if there's a dispute about ownership, we can't complete this move without proof of purchase or a police verification. Call the police, I said immediately. Mike's face went white. Rebecca, come on, don't do this. Don't do what? Don't report theft? Don't protect my own property? We'll bring it back. We just needed some furniture for Mom and Dad's place. And there it was. The truth finally came out. They weren't just refusing to pay rent, they were stealing my belongings to furnish their next free living situation. How much? I asked quietly. How much of my stuff were you planning to take? Mike and Jennifer exchanged glances. Jennifer's defiance crumbled first. Just the basics, she whispered. We didn't think you'd miss it. Didn't think I'd miss my own furniture. The audacity was breathtaking. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I showed them my lease agreement, my homeowner's insurance policy, and receipts for the major items. Mike and Jennifer couldn't produce proof of purchase for anything. Ma'am, the officer said to me, do you want to press charges? I looked at my brother, standing there in handcuffs with his new wife crying beside him. This was the moment of truth, the moment that would define our relationship forever. Yes, I said, I want to press charges. Because sometimes, family or not, you have to draw the line. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my peaceful apartment, watching the sunset paint the city golden. Mike and Jennifer pled guilty to attempted theft and got probation plus community service. They also had to pay restitution for the moving truck and police response. They moved in with Mom and Dad, just as predicted. Last I heard, the arrangement was going about as well as you'd expect. 3 adults and a couple trying to play house in a 2-bedroom ranch. Mom calls occasionally with updates, usually complaints disguised as concern. The family dynamic shifted permanently after the arrest. Some relatives sided with me, finally understanding that there's a difference between family support and family exploitation. Others blamed me for tearing the family apart by refusing to be a perpetual doormat. I'm okay with that division. Turns out, when you stop trying to please everyone, you discover who actually respects you. Mike got a job at another garage, finally. Jennifer works full-time at a department store. They're learning what the rest of us figured out years ago, that adult life requires adult responsibility. Danny surprised me by calling to apologize for all the money he'd borrowed and never repaid. He's been sending me $50 a month, chipping away at the debt. It's not much, but it's acknowledgement. Progress. Dad and I have developed an unexpected relationship. He stops by the office sometimes, just to chat. He's proud of what I've built, and he's not afraid to say it anymore. Turns out, he'd been concerned about my family becoming too dependent on me for years, but he'd never known how to address it. Mom is still mom. She's convinced this is all a phase I'll outgrow when I come to my senses and remember what family means. But her definition of family and mine are permanently different now. I've learned that real family, the kind worth having, doesn't keep score. They don't take without giving. They don't mock your success or minimize your worth. They celebrate your achievements and respect your boundaries. The people who couldn't do that were never really family anyway. They were just people who shared my DNA and expected special treatment because of it. My apartment is peaceful now. I've redecorated, bought new furniture, changed the locks. Sometimes I host dinner parties for my real friends, the ones who celebrate my success instead of resenting it. I still buy lottery tickets every week, not because I need the money, but because I like the dreams they represent, the possibility of something even better, the hope for unexpected joy. But I don't need to win the lottery to feel lucky anymore. I already have everything that matters: self-respect, genuine friends, and the knowledge that I'm worth more than other people's approval. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about finding your worth and setting boundaries. Sometimes the hardest person to stand up to is family, but sometimes that's exactly when it matters most. The charity case label turned out to be wrong anyway. Real charity is about giving freely to those who need help and appreciate it. What my family wanted wasn't charity, it was enablement, and I'm officially out of that business.